Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the political commentator Adam Bolton and the journalist and broadcaster Sonia Soda with us from now until just before midnight. We'll get into the front pages in a moment. First, though, to some breaking news about the Chancellor and her budget. Let's bring in our chief political correspondent, John Craig, and you have some words from her, John. Tell us more.
The Chancellor is pledging a fairer, stronger and more secure Britain with her budget. Speaking ahead of the budget, she said this: I will take the fair and necessary choices to deliver on our promise of change. She says, I will not return Britain back to austerity, nor will I lose control of public spending with reckless borrowing. I will take action to help families with the cost of living, cut hospital waiting lists, cut the national debt. And I will push ahead with the biggest drive for growth in a generation. Investments in roads, rail and energy, investments in housing, security and defence, investments in education, skills and training. So together, she says, we can build a fairer, stronger and more secure Britain. Critics will doubt that pledge about growth because there are fears that growth is not going to be as strong as the government had hoped. There is, as you might expect, criticism ahead of the budget from Sir Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor. He says Rachel Reeves is trying to pull the wool over your eyes. He says, having already raised taxes by £40 billion, she said she'd wipe the slate clean. She wouldn't be coming back for more. That's a reference to what she said at the CBI conference a year ago, and it was now on her. A year later, she's set to break that promise, says Sir Mel. And he says that Rachel Reeves has chosen higher welfare and higher taxes, chosen to send the bill to hard-working families. This budget isn't about economic necessity, he says. It's about political weakness, and hard-working families are being handed the bill.
John Craig with that update. Thank you very much indeed. So let's see how the newspapers are viewing the budget then. The FT to start with, describing it as tax-heavy and an attempt by the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, that she has control of the country's finances. The Guardian says the main aims of tomorrow's announcements will be addressing the cost of living crisis and restoring fiscal stability. The Eye calls it a moment of truth for the Chancellor and the economy itself. The Metro attempts a Game of Thrones pun. Their headline, Skinter is coming. Moving on to other news, the Express leads with the Justice Secretary, David Lammy, considering scrapping trials by jury except those for murder, rape and manslaughter. It's also the main story for The Telegraph, which says David Lammy is set to scrap most jury trials in spite of previously saying they were fundamental to democracy. Well, let us bring in our guests then, Adam and Sonia. I have to confess I feel a little bit demob happy tonight. I've been talking about this for so many months. It's like it's finally coming, isn't it?
No, but it's here, but we've just got, just before, another budget leak. John Craig leaking the speech and the message.
Yeah, exactly that, which is a fairer Britain, stability in the financial markets.
Change.
Yes. So do the papers agree? Let's look at the Metro. Not so much, possibly. Skinter is coming. Sonia?
Yes, so this is referring to the fact that the Chancellor now has a £30 to £35 billion black hole she has to fill again. Last year, at the budget, she did a big tax rise on employers' national insurance, and she said later to the CBI, I'm not going to come back, I'm not going to do this again. Public services have to live within their means. Unfortunately, the economic forecast has got worse in the intervening months, and she now has a black hole she has to fill, and she is saying she's going to fill it with tax rises. For weeks, the Treasury were briefing that they were potentially thinking about rising income tax. That would have been very bad, I think, for Labour in terms of their relationship with the public and trust with the public, which is already pretty low, because they had this big manifesto pledge. I think it wasn't the right manifesto pledge to make, but they pledged not to raise any of the big three taxes. So instead, she is going to be doing a sort of pick and mix, is what the Metro is calling it.
She says it's not pick and mix. She says see it as a package
No,
to her Labour
it's
MPs.
not pick and mix.
Not pick and mix. Not pick and mix.
It's a package, not pick and mix.
Yes. Well, we'll see. Anyway, carry on.
6 different tax rises.
6.
The chunkiest one is the freezing in income tax thresholds, which is, income tax rises by another name. Lots of chancellors do it because it's easier than increasing the headline rate. That will raise quite a bit of money. We're expecting some sort of tax on the most valuable homes. We're expecting an increase in the sugar tax. It's now going to be applied to sugary milk-based products. So she is basically patching together bits and pieces of money from here and there.
So,
some people are going to feel it more than others.
Yes, I think the Telegraph tonight's calling it the dirty dozen taxes, and certainly Steve Swinford of the Times is going 12. He said around 12, and I think he then said 13. well, it's only that she said to Labour MPs they should see it as a package, not pick and mix. But it is the smorgasbord budget or the hokey-cokey budget, as the Speaker told us.
The point on pick and mix...
Picky tea budget.
The point on pick and mix, which she's trying to make, which she made to the Parliamentary Labour
There you go. There's there's the dirty dozen tax rises to hit middle-class families.
She is saying to the Labour MPs, who seem to be the constituency she's most worried about, don't think that you can say you like this one, but you don't like that one. You've got to accept the whole thing because that's the only way it holds together. And, of course, the big thing that she's giving to her party is the getting rid of the two-child cap on child benefit, which, not so long ago, people were having the whip taken away for supporting that. Yeah. And now it's official policy, which just shows the extent to which Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are on the back foot in terms of presenting this budget and having to look over their shoulder at the mood within the Labour Party.
Yeah, middle-class families face a dirty dozen tax rises in the budget as Rachel Reeves expands the welfare state. So that is the view of the Telegraph. Is that the way it is? There are giveaways. The minimum wage has gone up, for example. Certainly there's concern about that doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
Fuel duty, it looks like being frozen again. Rail fares frozen, first time in 30 years. Scrapping green levies for our energy bills, potentially. And as Adam said, scrapping the two-child benefit cap. There are giveaways in this. But is the focus, do you think, that makes middle-class Britain feel that those who are on benefits are being supported more than those who are working hard and striving?
It may well be. I mean, here we got the Metro talking about a 15 billion welfare boost. And I have to say, on the basis of the information we have so far, I don't quite see how this budget is going to work. Because if we really are talking about trying to raise 35 billion in taxes, if you're giving away a further 15 billion with a welfare boost, then you're up to trying to get 40 billion back. And what we've heard so far doesn't amount to 40 billion a year in terms of taxes, so there must be more bad news to come.
Yeah.
I mean, it will definitely be presented by the right-wing press, the dropping of the two-child benefit cap as a sort of giveaway to people on welfare. I think the thing I would say about it is there's been a lot of analysis that shows actually it is the most efficient way of taking children out of poverty. So for 3-point-something billion or whatever it is, you're taking at a swoop, hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. So I think what Labour feels. So partly Number 10 will be looking to backbenchers, to whom this is incredibly important. But also, I just don't think it's sustainable for a Labour government to get to the end of their term and for there to be hundreds of thousands more children living in the poverty at the end of 5 years.
I mean, the argument. People in work say, I can't afford another kid, I'm not going to have it. So why have more children if you can't afford more benefits? I'm just going to leave that hanging there. Yeah. I don't want to dwell on it, but anyway.
The point to make is that's what Gordon Brown campaigned for this.
Yes, that's true.
And he said it was a gambling tax that was going to pay for it. And we know it's going to be some form of gambling tax, although last week they were saying it wasn't going to be on racecourses, for example.
Yes, exactly.
I think the point, just to come back to your point about the minimum wage, we need to move on. We'll come back to the minimum wage.
OK, well, minimum wage, well, let's do that. Well, you've got the... Let's see the FT first, if you don't mind. Reeves prepares tax-heavy budget in a bid to show she has control of finances. I mean, this is the critical bit, isn't it? It's about the markets, it's about stabilising. But is it also to show her party she has control of finances? Because this is politically precarious for her, isn't it?
Yeah, and the most wounding headline on the FT, just below the main headline, is blow to, quotes, working people, which is the FT Financial Authority is saying that ordinary people, working people, are going to be hit through these taxes, whereas we're getting precisely the contrary message coming from the government saying we're looking after you because we're not putting up fuel duty and all that. And that really is going to be it, whether the net effect of all these taxes, particularly income tax changes, people feel them in their pocket while the government is telling them, oh, yeah, we're getting prices and inflation down.
Yeah, and the point is, because of inflation, there's been greater wage inflation, which takes you into other tax brackets faster. So, sorry, onto the minimum wage. This is the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Reeves faces chorus of condemnation for pricing young people out of work. She talks of drive for growth, but bosses say 8.5% minimum wage hike for 18 to 20s is absolutely bonkers.
Yes, so obviously paying young people more is a good thing and we'd all really like it. The problem is when you look at the economics of it, some young people will be better off because they will end up getting paid more by their employers. But the argument is that by putting up the minimum wage for that age group, employers may also be less likely to take extra people on, or indeed, in tough economic times, it might be the difference between laying off, say, one person or two extra people. So there may be fewer jobs as a result. And I think the reason, it's particularly hospitality, I think, who are saying they're going to be affected by this. Now, I want to see a higher minimum wage, but I don't want it to come at the cost of the number of jobs in the labour market for young people, because young people are already facing a really difficult labour market. And I think coming on top of the national insurance increase for businesses that we saw this time last year, I think particularly in something like hospitality, where the margins are very low, they'll be like, right, well, we had to pay extra national insurance on our wages, and now we've got these minimum wage costs and we employ a lot of younger workers. So, it's going to cut our margins down even more. Are some businesses going to go out of business? They're obviously going to say this because they don't want the minimum wage to go up, but I do think it's a legitimate concern.
But there is less of an incentive for people to hire the under-25s, which was why the original division in the levels of payment was there. And simultaneously with this, of course, the government has just got Alan Milburn to look into NEETs, people not in education, employment or training, precisely the sort of people under 25 who they want to get into jobs, and it will be argued by employers that this makes it more difficult.
Yeah, and the whole point about the national insurance changes for employers last budget was that it also brought down the level at which you start paying to 5,000. So you don't have to... I mean, you start paying for someone's national insurance very early. And even the Resolution Foundation tonight suggesting that that minimum wage increase could do more harm than good.
Which is interesting because the Resolution Foundation is, very influential with the government. It's sort of perceived... It's obviously a think tank, but it's perceived as being on the left. It was run by somebody who is now a minister in Rachel Reeves' Treasury previously. So if they're saying that, it's quite significant.
And guess who they're going to be putting on the media at tea time tomorrow? Torsten Bell, the man you're talking about.
There we are.
Obviously, there's some explaining
So
to be
he's
done.
got to sell it. Brilliant. Yeah. Anyway, let's go to The Sun. Quite like this front. Brace yourselves, it says. Here's Rachel Reeves' budget ledger. Adam, two columns here, if you have a look. Taxes on work, pensions, houses, taxis, we haven't even mentioned that, milkshakes, hotel stays and having fun all up. Tax on fuel, ER, at least that's frozen.
At least it's frozen.
So, to be fair, The Sun's always campaigned about fuel duty, hasn't it? Anyway,
yeah, so they're saying
fuel's frozen,
we have got that.
But forget the rest of it.
I mean, it's interesting they haven't gone back to what they also campaigned on, which is the gambling taxes, because apparently they're going to go up. And of course, Sun, for its readers, not so concerned about mansion tax, which we understand is going to be one of the ways they're going to raise money. I mean, the hotel stays tax is to do with allowing a tourist tax.
Having fun, though, that's a pretty general one that The Sun's got on there. I wonder what they mean by that.
I didn't know I murdered that front page, so maybe we should just move on from it. Daily Star, Reeves is shakedown. More things in the sugary drinks tax. This is milkshakes and tins of coffee, for example.
Yeah.
That was pre-announced as well. So, I mean, we have had quite a lot pre-announced, haven't we?
Yeah. I mean, they're going for a pun as well. We had... Skinter is coming now. We've got she's on shaky ground to get it.
Milkshake in hand.
The milkshake snatcher, which of course is
Margaret Thatcher.
Comparing her to Margaret Thatcher. They haven't, though, as I understand it, put this tax into coffee shops, because it was felt that that would be just too much for the
Pasty
hospitality.
tax, here we go.
Just too much for the hospitality industry to make the cost of your Starbucks or your Nero or your Costa more expensive.
Yeah, the I, moment of truth for Reeves and the UK economy. Right, what needs to go badly wrong for her not to survive this? I mean, from what you've heard so far, will she be OK politically, do you think?
I think so. I think her fortunes are very tied to Starmer, actually. I mean, I think if there was something in there that we weren't expecting that lands like a lead balloon, I'm thinking about stuff like winter fuel payment, means testing, and that goes down really badly. Maybe she could be at risk, but I think she and Starmer's futures are tied very closely together. And I sort of think as long as Starmer's around, she's safe.
The key thing she's got to do tomorrow is not frighten the markets.
True.
And that was a question of balancing the books. And we shall see. It looks like she's got that message. She keeps on saying she's going to keep to her fiscal rules. Other thing she has to do is not antagonise, for short-term survival, not antagonise her own party. Yeah. And she's doing all she can not to do that. Whether that improves the long-term prospects with the general public as a whole is a different matter, I think.
Yes, and the Daily Mirror, help is at hand. One of the gifts to the party, if not those who are on lower incomes. Chancellor tells Mirror there will be wage rises for millions of low-paid workers. And let's also take a look at The Guardian. Reeves vows to tackle cost of living crisis in decisive budget for Labour. And we've heard those three elements, haven't we? Waiting list down, cost of living down, effectively, or tackled, and debt down. Those are the three big aims.
But on the front of the eye, you were asking about that. Yeah. One of their bullet points is that food prices are likely to go up after budget taxes in spite of drive to help the cost of living. And if people actually in their weekly shop think they're paying more, they may not be too impressed.
This is a problem for the government, which is that the economic indicators are not pointing in the right direction, and they are doing some stuff on the cost of living, like rail freezes, for example, fuel duty freeze. But the problem is that it might end up feeling quite marginal in the context of what else is going on in the economy.
Should also mention having an EV is going to get more expensive.
Yes,
we understand there's going to be a charge per mile on that. So that kind of modernising green agenda also, they're beginning to have to pay for it or pay more for it.
Yes, indeed so, yes. Ed Miliband's been fighting to keep his budget together, hasn't he, in terms of the levies as well. Anyway, lots to come. 11 o'clock is when our programme starts tomorrow. Obviously, she'll be on her feet shortly after that. A fascinating day. Other news is around today, though. Outrage from the legal profession over reported plans to scrap most trials by jury. Discussing that and more next.
The judge made it very clear that she could see no justifiable reason why Sakulas wasn't here facing British justice.
I promised I would get him justice.
Sky News, get the full story first.
It's legal to let go.
Set the speed and take the hands off. I'm Lisa Dowd and I'm Sky's Midlands correspondent.
Liberation Day.
By popular demand, here we are.
Donald Trump. It is quite the story. Wherever it goes, on Trump 100, we go with it.
Tell us who you're looking for.
Unbelievable we've come to this.
Are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal?
Not like you said it.
From the UK.
Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
It was 10 feet from him, and all of a sudden the shots rang out.
People impacted.
I'll tell you on another day on the podcast what that was all about.
Join us wherever you get your podcasts.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Baqir, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
She's preparing the ground to raise taxes.
The
budget, I've got to do the things that I think are right.
There are tax rises coming down the track.
You can't rule out further tax rises.
It's exactly what she's going to have to do.
She'll be talking about that when it comes to the budget.
We'll be talking everything money as the Chancellor reveals what's in her budget.
Goodness knows how it's going to play out if these tax rises are announced.
A show of military might and menace. Why should the West trust you?
Frankly, I don't care whether the West trusts us or not.
Sky News. Get the full story first. Have a quick word for Sky News. Is the West right? Are you fueling Russia's war machine? American journalist Evan Gershkovich is on trial here, but was first on display. I'm Ivor Bennett, Sky's Moscow correspondent.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club. 1 more year! Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again, Adam Bolton and Sonia Soda. Amidst all the budget furore, of course, let's just throw in the idea of getting rid of trial by jury, Adam. Just a little bit of explosion there in politics.
Yeah, now, at this stage, this is at the level of a memo which has been seen. This is not a government announcement, and we have to stress that. What we do know is that the government commissioned Lord Leveson, who some of us may remember from his inquiry into relations between the media and politics. They commissioned him to look into the problems in the courts, the fact that now, you know, if a serious crime is committed, it may be a couple of years before people get into the courts. So they said, what can we do about this problem? He recommended that for offences where the tariff is 3 years or less, that there should no longer be the right to a jury trial, that this should be decided by a new level of judges called Crown Court Bench. What David Lammy says in his memo is that he wants to put that tariff up to 5 years, which basically means rape and murder would get a jury trial. Everything else, including presumably grievous bodily harm, serious fraud, serious theft, that right to jury trial would go away. And I think the problem with it is, first of all, it has been something that Britain has championed since the Middle Ages, that we have an adversarial system where the jury decides whether someone's guilty or not, unlike the Napoleonic Code, where you have investigating magistrates who look into the case. What they appear to be proposing is that you'd still have an adversarial system, but rather than the jury deciding, you would have a judge deciding. So you would still have that type of trial. You wouldn't have investigative magistrates looking into it. So the lawyers would probably have more work than ever. Would this actually speed up the process in the courts? And firstly, and secondly, given the shortage of money going into the justice system, where are you actually going to get these extra judges and people from?
Yeah, the Express is calling him Calamity Lammy now. Yeah. They always want to give a name to something, but I think it's 80,000, the backlog, isn't it? Yeah. He's talking about 100,000 by the end of this Parliament. Something needs to give, isn't that the point? Because the money is not coming.
But something needs to give, but it should be. I mean, I think trial by jury for serious crimes that command a prison sentence. I'm not sure about your viewers, but if I'm being prosecuted for a crime that carries a tariff of 2 years, 3 years, that's really significant. I want to be tried by my peers, not by a judge. And actually, the evidence shows that jury trial is the fairest kind of trial in terms of, for example, you don't get people from one ethnic background being convicted at a higher rate than people from others. Under the magistrate system, you do. Black women are 22% more likely to be convicted than white women by magistrates, because the thing about jury trial is that everyone brings their own bias to it, but it's randomly selected 12 members of the public, your peers. Biases tend to sort of get filtered out. They get challenged in the jury room. That's not always going to happen if you've got a magistrate or a judge making these decisions. So I think it's very, very troubling. I think there's a reason why the criminal bar are up in arms about this. I mean, it's a really extreme... Leveson at least stopped at 3 years. This proposal from David Lammy is so extreme. It's basically saying we're going to reserve jury trial, the right to a jury trial, for only the most serious offences.
We've only got a minute left. It is interesting, since the reshuffle, that the people who've been put in their positions, new Justice Secretary, new Home Secretary, are coming out much harder, much faster, with much sort of stronger policies, aren't they? Anyway, just a
I mean, the other thing that's not clear is whether this would be proposed as an emergency measure and then removed, or whether, as it appears, the government thinks this will be the way it will be from here on in.
30 seconds. Ukraine, it's in the Metro and a number of newspapers. Just very quickly, Sonia.
Absolutely. So peace talks, in inverted commas, are rolling on. There has been agreement now between the White House and Zelensky. Obviously, the big thing is Russia going to get round the table? I think that very much remains to be seen. And here in the UK, we've got Starmer reiterating that he would be prepared to send British boots on the ground to help keep the peace in the event of a peace deal.
OK.
Zelensky says agreement on the essence.
Essence.
Whatever that means.
Yes, I think that means more to come, doesn't it? Adam, Sonia, thank you very much indeed. More in the next hour. Thank you.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.